Let's go over my home desk setup here behind me, which is where I do all of my photo and video editing. I'll showcase the hardware I use and the programs I use to edit with. Starting with the foundation, everything has to sit on something, and I'm using the Sway standing desk from Ergonofis. It's made of sustainable solid walnut wood and is actually my first real wood desk. If you've never had a solid wood desk before, you'll immediately notice the difference between the finish and the feel it has. And you don't have to worry about those laminated finishes peeling off or bubbling up after a long time. This is a standing desk and it has a swipe interface to transition between your preferred sitting and standing heights. You can adjust the height by touching the top or bottom of the line, or you can swipe up and down to transition between saved preset heights. So I don't have to remember where I had things, I just swipe and it'll go straight to the saved preset for my either sitting or standing position. You also can save those settings for up to 4 different users, so if you share the desk with others, you can still keep your own settings. There's also a nice cable management system behind the desk because no one wants to see unnecessary wires, which helps with the aesthetics, and the setup has an anti-collision feature that kicks in whenever it feels like something is in the way of its movement. The lifting capacity is 360 pounds, so it should easily be able to handle anything you place on top of it. On the desk, I have a pair of Yamaha HS8 studio speakers, which are a bit overkill in size, but before I picked up a camera, I was a musician, so they were my main studio monitors. They have a nice neutral sound, so you can really hear what the audio mix actually sounds like, so you can make more accurate adjustments. They are connected to a M-Audio interface along with this Shure MV7X mic, which is what I use for videos like this or live streaming. As far as the computer, I'm using an Apple M1 Max laptop with 64 gigabytes of RAM connected to the 5K Apple Studio display. I used to be a hardcore Windows lover and I've built gaming computers and editing rigs, but when Apple introduced the new M1 chips, I could not deny how powerful they were and still are. It has literally changed the game for my editing because people often talk about benchmarks and rendering speeds, but what mattered the most for me was the editing experience. I hate when I scrub through a timeline and I start experiencing lags or stutters when I'm trying to make adjustments. Some file formats and codecs that these cameras have can be really tough on your computer, so you would have to either use proxies or switch to a file type that's easier to edit. I made a video about how the lowest spec M1 Pro chip with 16 gigabytes of RAM outperformed my custom built PC. It's been almost 2 years since that video and the M2 chips are out now, which are even better, but I still haven't been able to make this M1 chip complain, which is mind-blowing. The studio display is a very well-built monitor with a built-in webcam and speakers. Most importantly, it has great color accuracy, which is obviously important for photo and video editing, and it works seamlessly with the MacBook and the rest of the Apple ecosystem. I use the standard wireless Apple keyboard with Touch ID, and for my mouse, I'm using the Logitech MX Master 3S. It has Mac compatibility, so the buttons and scroll wheels function with the computer's interface as well as my editing programs. I edit my videos in DaVinci Resolve because the color grading tools are amazing. I used to do everything in Premiere Pro because even though DaVinci Resolve was known for being a great color grading program, I think Premiere was a bit ahead with the editing tools. But now at this point, I think Resolve is a very mature program that is also free to use. You can pay for the studio version to use the more advanced features, but there are no monthly payments, just a one-time fee and it's yours. I edit photos in Lightroom and Photoshop mainly, even though lately I've been using DaVinci Resolve to color grade some photos as well because, like I say, the tools are really just that good. My audio work is done in Ableton Live, which isn't necessarily mandatory, but because I came from a music and audio engineering background, I was already familiar with Ableton and it allows me to do some high-end mixing and mastering when I need to. Every project obviously doesn't need that level of work, but when it does, that's why I get it done. I also have a 12.9-inch M2 iPad Pro that I use for storyboarding and organizing things I need for shoot days. It's nice to have on location to go through your shot list, or sometimes I use it for an external monitor to look at my edits on a different screen. Sometimes I use it to write notes, but regardless, it's a great fill-in-the-gap type of device that also happens to be crazy powerful with the M2 chip. Technically, because DaVinci Resolve works on the iPad, I can literally edit perfectly fine with just the iPad itself, which is also crazy. Last but not least is the chair that I'm sitting in, which is also from Ergonofis. This is the U2 chair in their almond and clay scheme, which I think matches the rest of the setup pretty well. The chair is very well built and most importantly, it is comfortable. It has all the adjustment points you'd expect to see in the chair that is designed for comfort, like the tilt control, lumbar support, the seat back and seat bottom are adjustable, and the armrest can be adjusted as well. So that's a breakdown on what I work with on a daily basis to do all the things that I do. If you have any questions about anything, just let me know. I will have links to all the things I talked about down below in the description box, and I'll see you guys in the next video.